According to the National Library of Medicine, spina bifida is one of the most common neurotube defects worldwide, affecting approximately 1 in 2,500 newborns. For unknown reasons, spina bifida varies from different geographical regions and ethnic groups. Dom Ritter lives with spina bifida. However, he refuses to allow his disability to define his personal or professional value, looking at life as a grand adventure and an opportunity to maximize his level of influence and do the most good. Professionally, Ritter spends his days as a psychotherapist, helping other people analyze their true potential in life and the avenues that they can take to maximize their own potential. But don't get it twisted. Ritter wants everyone he encounters to chart their own course to prosperity. He joined me this week from Asia to discuss his view on life, living with a disability, and the importance of perseverance. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Now, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm excited to learn about your inspirational and encouraging journey today. Great to see you, and thank you for a few minutes, buddy.
Sure, my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Dom, as you both know, we both have a form of a disability, buddy, but it really doesn't stop us from accomplishing the goals that we want to accomplish. So I'm wondering if you could start our conversation by sort of giving me a 360-degree view of yourself and how you got to where you are today, buddy.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, like you said, I was also like born with a disability. It's called spina bifida, which really affects your way that you can walk. So it really affects your mobility, and it's also connected with loads of other health issues. Which I don't really have to go into detail. If people are really interested, they can just Google spina bifida. But it is a serious health condition, and it really affects you. And usually people who are born with this disability, they are kind of like, many of them that I know as well, they're kind of like in a wheelchair. And in the beginning of my life, I was, using a wheelchair as well, and sometimes when I didn't have to use it, I could also use crutches, but I always felt uncomfortable using it. I rather just wanted to walk, and although that was always, with great difficulty, I was, from a very young age on, always wanted to move about, without any equipment, holding me back, so to speak. So I wasn't very keen on actually using wheelchairs or crutches, any kind of like support apart from braces. I'm still using the braces today, and they are just so much better today. Back in the 70s, early 80s, when I was a child, it was very much like Forrest Gump kind of thing. The kind of big, clunky, heavy braces. That. But without them, I really couldn't move. I could crawl, but I wasn't able to walk. So this kind of equipment got better and better over the years, so it became much easier to walk about. but yeah, since I can remember, I just love to move about, and that ultimately led me, to wanting to leave the confinements, of living in Germany, and just explore the world, go out there, and see different cultures, and speak different languages. I never let it confine me, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can certainly relate. So I was born with spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. It simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs
Sure.
to walk normally. But I also spend a lot of time talking to business people, those other professional fields about acceptance and inclusion for folks with disabilities, particularly as it relates to employment. But I'm going to ask you about your sort of opinion about acceptance and inclusion for all people of all abilities and all of societal life. How do you define inclusion and acceptance?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, when you ask me that question, and I think most people would probably respond about, social inclusion and acceptance, from those people who are, well, normal, whatever normal is, but from mainstream society, of how they are accepting, of something that is maybe not the norm, somebody who is kind of like falls outside of that norm. But I think an equally important point, and this is something that I'm more concerned with, and I can relate to it more, and it makes more sense to me, is how this inclusion, or acceptance, actually is within the minds of those people with the disabilities, So because mainstream society's ideas about disability is not just in the ones who are deemed to be the normal population, but is also instilled in the ones that have the disabilities. And for me, what is the point that is a bit more interesting for me is actually these ideas around disability inside the heads of those people who have disabilities. So, for example, not for example, but to actually, as a way of overcoming, these restrictions, that maybe we face in society, is to just not accept these restrictions, inside your own mind, saying, yes, I have this disability, but I'm not going to be in a particular way because of it. For example, with me, mobility issues, I don't want it to physically stop me in my tracks, So really what I would like to see, and I said that before, is just to see more disabled people, just out there, in the streets, in jobs, being included in the media, TV series, TV shows, movies, and just to be part of everyday life, rather than just, hidden away, from society, and stuff like that, But I think the important thing is, is also for people with disabilities to really overcome these ideas, that of how they might be perceiving themselves, with a disability, and just get out there, put the message across, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dom, tell me, I'm curious to ask you about discovering your passion in life and how you define your passion and your purpose.
Sure. Well, the passion is, I mean, my own passion, my own satisfaction in life, I get from, well, actually, to speaking, exchanging ideas with people like yourself, and embracing life. I think this is something that I just find so incredible. I feel so blessed, and so happy, when I can see other people, who feel very passionate about life and what they're doing. I most certainly feel passionate about what I'm doing. And if I can share this passion with other people, especially in the context, of having experienced, these kind of setbacks, from very early back on life, to have, life having dealt you certain cards, which might make it a little bit more challenging. than maybe for other people. Although, even people who don't have disabilities, they also have their share of problems and difficulties and setbacks and losses. But to see everything, as part of life, and not necessarily as problems, but as opportunities, and being able to overcome them, and feeling excited about doing that, and sharing it with other people and getting excited about other people's success stories as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, how do you sort of use the fact that you have a disability as sort of a competitive advantage in terms of your emotional intelligence as well? How do you think having a disability is actually a competitive advantage for you in a sense of solving problems in an innovative
Yeah,
way?
yeah, yeah. I hear you. That's a very interesting point, and I think in a way, of course, my life is shaped by this, by what I was, experiencing. It definitely shapes me. And I like to take, all these advantages, and like you said, there is, I really think, I agree with you, there is like a competitive advantage because you were experiencing difficulties very early on in life, which are very, very tough. If you grow up as a young kid or in school, with a condition or with an issue, that makes you really different from the rest of the group, from the rest of the pack. I suppose, it can either make you or break you, and it's really unfortunate if it does break you. I think in my case, it made me of what I am today. I think I learned to become really, really resilient, and being able to problem solve, well, how do I deal with my disability? How can I, still be part of a group, of a peer network, of, having friends, despite these issues, and I think especially when I think back about, the experience in school, I think I never experienced, for an example, and I think that's very different from many, many other people that I've met, and people that I've worked with, as a psychotherapist and psychologist, is people were bullied in school because they were different, and that's just very common, when you're different and kids see that you're different, you're being picked on, I think I was very lucky because I never allowed people to pick on me, because when they tried to make fun of me, I actually found it funny because some of the stuff was actually really clever, the kind of comments that they were, throwing at me, and or the things that they were saying to me. So I was laughing with them. And that doesn't make it interesting for a bully. A bully wants to have a reaction from somebody. They want to make somebody cry, whatever. But I never gave it to them, and I think simply because I learned so quick early on, to be, well, like you said before, to be highly sensitive, to be really, in tune with other people of what might be going on in their minds, and to not find myself in this typical victim role. I never seen myself as a victim, and I think that's just something that bullies would thrive on. So yeah. Very resilient, I think I have to, say thanks to my mother, who brought me up, who made me probably very resilient, and very good at problem solving, and thinking on, in the moment, and yeah. I think this is really an advantage, if you had experienced a lot of difficulties throughout your life,
Yeah, absolutely. We always have to give credit to mom, right?
Yes, no, absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. And now, for anyone who may be listening or watching this, tell me, how do you think we can use our experience as our greatest teacher when it comes to sort of persevering through a setback or setbacks in life?
Yeah, yeah. I always, see it as almost like, also when I talk to friends, trying to relate to their difficulties. I think the important thing is, we all share, the experience, of setbacks, losses, tragedies in life, and I when I help, support other people in my professional life, I always think of myself as almost like the wounded healer. This is like a common concept, which makes it very easy, to put yourself. And I think this is another skill that I've really, learned and yeah, learned so well. And I think I'm probably quite good at it, is to put myself in the situation of others, of what life might be for them. Of course, you also use your own experiences, but you're really trying to put yourself into the situations of others. And when it comes to these difficulties, is to acknowledge them. I think this is really, really important. I never ignore my difficulties, like my disability. It's always present for me. My disability is with me every day, and it sucks. At times it's annoying, of course it is, but like I said before, this, to be aware of it is really, really important, because only if you're fully aware of the difficulties, you can overcome these issues, and you can improve life. I think this is really important, especially if you've managed so far, to deal with different situations and different difficulties, horrendous situations that happen in my life, even regardless of my disability. Knowing that you've pulled through a number of challenges in your life, it just makes you feel stronger and stronger, because you just managed to pull through. And even if you haven't done it perfectly, you never do. Of course, there's always a lesson to be learned. But I like this idea, that failing is part of life. But what you need to be doing is fail better. I like that. I like the idea. Continuously failing is fine. It's part of life. But try to fail better next time. Yeah.
That's certainly an interesting way to look at it for sure. And I always tell a lot of people call me an inspiration for living my life with a disability, but I always tell them I'm just simply living my life, right? And if I'm an inspiration to other people, that comes with the territory, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering if you can take a couple of minutes just to explain to the audience about your professional life, what you do for a living, and how having a disability helps you sort of build relationships of understanding as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, like what I said before, this idea of the wounded healer, that it can be an advantage, sometimes, to tap into the pain of others, if you've experienced the pain yourself, and I'm no stranger to emotional pain, but also physical pain, especially physical pain. And I work with people, who experience both, especially, physical stuff as well, because of different health conditions, So I think that really does help, if you can tap into certain things, and I think it is, like I said before to you as well, with this emotional intelligence and high sensitivity, that for me it is relatively easy, to judge, how one is doing. I just get a sense of it, and this is something I think maybe I'm also born with this kind of ability, but or you're born with it, and then it becomes perfected, the more you deal with situations like this, or you are doing this profession that I'm doing, which is psychotherapy and coaching. But using this, I think it's very useful. I think also for clients, because they can see, hey, there's somebody who, he most definitely had a really tough life, so maybe, he can understand, or have a bit of an understanding of what it might be like to be in my shoes, to be in my situation. And I think, well, so far, I've done good, so it was relatively, and I still find it, relatively easy, to tap into people's experiences, by putting myself in these situations and having experience, like I said, from very early on, just to give you an idea, of the severity, of issues that I've experienced, just after I was born, many years ago, my mom was told that I'm not going to make it, that, the doctors were pretty much, sure that I would only survive for a couple of hours and that I would die. And I was rushed into an emergency room. I was christened by a priest, because they really thought I was gonna die. But I'm still alive, so I pulled through, and I think this is just awesome. It's just like there seems to be something inside myself that is so pro-life, that so wants to make it, that so wants to achieve and make the best of things, make the best out of my life, and I want to use this incredible passion for life and this energy for life, that I think I'm bubbling with this energy, is to bring it to other people, and when they, especially when they feel down and they feel like they can't continue anymore, they've really had it, and I think then it's useful to bring a bit of that energy, at the same time acknowledging that somebody has a really difficult time. You don't want to reject, or not reject, but negate the experience, by just saying, oh, no, just be positive. No. You have to first tap into the pain before you do anything else. You need to be able to tap into pain and stuff like that. And I think that's what I'm good at.
Yeah, absolutely. You're certainly using your platform to maximize your difference in the world, aren't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And tell me now, I'm fascinated to ask you about what do you think is the key to eliminating barriers to inclusion for folks with disabilities?
Yeah. I think, these barriers, I mean, for me, the most important things, are the inner barriers, the mental barriers, inside, apart from everything else. I mean, there still is a reality out there, and you can see, by going into many different places in the world, society is not that well equipped, to deal with people who have all sorts of different, physical disabilities, I mean, for example, my disability, mobility issues. If you look at some of the public transport systems in many modern societies, there is still so much improvement that could go on. It's sometimes it's just shocking. I mean, only staircases. There are no lifts. There's no special arrangements for wheelchair users and all this kind of thing. So I can only think about that part, but in terms of mental barriers, is something like I said before, is to let go of these predefined ideas about what life should be like for somebody with a particular condition, disability or difficulty, to really let go of these ideas. It's not about neglecting or completely putting aside that one has a difficulty. Of course not. One is very much aware of it, but what you can do with it, I think that is entirely up to you. Nobody can tell you that, and society shouldn't be allowed to tell you. Of course, in your upbringing, all these ideas are in one's head, so we are all acculturated to different ideas, about different, situations, such as, for example, disability, but to really just let go of these ideas, and saying, yes, this is a difficulty, or it is a challenge, but what can I do to overcome it and to flourish, and become whoever I want to be? And I think you can really take things into your hand, take things into your hand and just become whoever you wish you want to become. I think there is this possibility. It's hard work, letting things go and becoming somebody new, but it is definitely possible. I think everybody can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Dom, tell me, how do you celebrate the wins in life, and What brings you the most joy?
The most joy in my life. Uh, what is a joy? Um, I think to basically do what I choose to do, to have the choice, to have the freedom in my life to do what I really enjoy doing. This is an amazing experience, and I'm very, very grateful for it, especially thinking about, well, maybe I was born with something that could have been very, very limiting, I mean, just thinking about, like not even being able to leave a home, or being able to even, leave my country, so having, freedom and being able to choose what I enjoyed, so yeah, having the ability and the choice to do as I please, and what makes me happy, is wonderful. And having conversations like this with you, or my work even, it's just something so nice when you share with other people experiences, especially also when they've been very, very difficult situations, and sharing how you got through it, learning from each other. This isn't just people learning from me all the time. Of course I'm learning from other people. This is a give and take, and this is what's so beautiful. We really do need each other, and this is just yeah, it's just an amazing ride. I love life, and it's nice to see when other people feel very passionate about life as well.
Yeah, life is a grand adventure, and
It is.
I always tell people that only have one life to live, right?
Yes, 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 yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Dom, tell me, how do you view prosperity?
How do I prosper?
How do you view prosperity?
How do I view prosperity? Um, if you can, if you have the ability, if it's possible for you, uh, to live out all your potentials, and I think sometimes you don't even know what your potentials are, and I think I always encourage people to, and myself as well, I challenge them, to try as many things as possible, try to think, to do things that you haven't even, thought about, and just try things out to see whether you're good at it, or whether maybe you're not good at it, that's also, likely. But I think to grow in so many different directions, that is for me, prosperity, to be able to fully develop, of what's there. And I think what many people do is, is they get into routines. And I think that we all do this in society. We very, very quickly take on, particular roles, in our jobs. We do that, and we get into a habit, we do something in our family life, and do that. And we pretty much, very quickly, get into certain routines, and I think sometimes, although that gives you a sense of security, if you're doing things over and over again, it feels comfortable, maybe it feels safe. But I think there can be so much more to life, like you using the word prosperity, that for me, this is like being able to grow, growing like a beautiful, flower or plant, and, with loads of different branches, going into different directions, to really see what's out there and what you might be able to enjoy, that's for me prosperity.
Yeah, and Dom, just building on that point, do you view yourself as a leader in some way?
I don't like to see myself as that. It's and people asked me this before, I don't want to, I don't actually want to be in that leadership role. I don't want to be, in my profession, they always use the word guru, which I don't like, because I think the important message about it is I don't want to lead, because I cannot lead other people, simply because I don't want them to follow my path. The path that I've taken in my life is my path. You have to use a different path. I can accompany you, I can be next to you, to follow and to help you, find your path, but not as somebody who would lead, And I know that people have different opinions on that, and I appreciate that, But for myself, um, from for me, it's like I don't want to be leader. I want you to be your own leader. I want you to be your own guru. There is something inside you that will lead you the right way. And I think actually that with any kind of situations in life, I think deep down, you know what the solutions are to your difficulties and problems. And it might be very difficult for you to acknowledge them or to actually realize them, and you might have many different excuses, My excuse maybe would have always been like, well, the reason why I can't do A, B, C is because I have a disability. That's the most convenient excuse I could think of. But I think deep down people have an idea, of how they can pull themselves out of situations. But it's just about actually being able to have enough confidence, and guts to actually do it. This is also very much about guts, overcoming fears. A lot of things that cripple us, and I'm using the word cripple here on purpose, is fear. That can completely immobilize us. I think I've seen it in many people. I mean, probably in most people, they know the solution to their problems, but they simply cannot do it. And I think one of the reasons is fear. Probably the main reason is fear. And the fear is not the unknown. The fear for me, from what I can see, and maybe also in my own life, is to leave the known. So to kind of depart what is known and then move on to something that's unknown. The fear is not the unknown, but to actually the fear of leaving things that you know so well, but to leave that behind.
Yeah, and when we look at life in general, Adala, I'm curious to ask you about your parting message when it comes to the importance of maximizing every moment in life.
Yeah. I mean, this is something that I find just beautiful, to use every day, as a new opportunity, to put yourself out there and to experience something new, and. I mean, I've said this in my previous conversation with you. I always, this relates back to what I said about fear. I try to do in my life. I always try. Maybe not every day. Maybe I should do it every day. But hey, shouldn't, whatever. But I try to do scary things, and that is simply to push myself out of my own comfort zone, out of something that I know, something that is known to me, something that gives me safety, security, although these are all perceived safeties and security. But I use fear to push myself, to get myself out of the comfort zone, to experience something new and to grow. And I pretty much do this, well, almost every day, and it doesn't have to be any like major things, but something that maybe might make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm thinking, no, you know what, let's just do it. And whenever I've done that, I always feel like this great, and even if I messed it up, it almost doesn't matter, but the idea that, hey, I pushed myself, I had the balls to do this, that gives you so much satisfaction, and it actually builds up your confidence, if you actually get out of your comfort zone and you try it. If you then fail, well, so what, there's another day, and you try again, get up and try again. And just this repeated, pushing yourself, that in itself gives you such great pleasure, and and pretty much using every day, to do something like, tiny achievements. They don't really have to be massive. Sometimes I think people overdo it. They're thinking, oh my God, they're setting up these huge goals that they want to achieve tomorrow or next week. And I think that can be really, really tricky, especially if you have very general goals that you're trying to achieve. But if you have like a specific thing that you want to achieve, maybe by next week, I mean, something really tiny, that's much easier, and you're actually much more likely to be successful even, and whatever happens, actually, regardless of the outcome, you can always say, hey, I've tried it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, John, my final question for you has to do with your own individual and personal and professional legacy and how you want that to be defined.
Yes. The legacy in terms of, I think I quite like the idea, of how I view my own life, private, but professional, is to do something that maybe is not so mainstream. Maybe that's something a little bit different, and I think this is really how I would like to be remembered. That almost sounds like I'm writing my own obituary, but it's something that I like to be. That's what I think I'm kind of proud of, that I've made something, which is a bit off the beaten track. That's all I'm saying. Something that is, well, maybe in my case it is quite off the beaten track, because even when I think about school friends of mine, some people are still living in the same city, or they even their kids going to the same school, that we went to. I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, maybe you've done other things in your life, but somebody who was told at the very beginning of his life that well, his mother was told that he's not going to make it, and now live a life which is that of a world citizen. That's really how I see myself. I'm a world citizen, and who does something that gives him pleasure every day, both socially and personally and professionally. I think it's really nice, that I to do.
Yeah, and just one final follow-up, Dom. I'm curious to ask you on how you view the concept of equity, equality, and diversity.
Yeah. Well, equality, egalitarian, obviously, I think people, regardless, of anything, it could be, gender, disability, sexual preference, faith, whatever, I think it goes without saying, but actually maybe only for people like us, we see it as only natural, to see that we are all of equal, value to society, no matter what our, of what we are, basically, yeah, I think that's part of the question. Was there another part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted your overall perspective on the idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and creating a more equitable environment for us all to live successfully. And I think you gave me an answer, so I appreciate that. And I'm wondering, Dom, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, my main platform that I'm using that people can get hold of me is Twitter, and my Twitter handle is that's like punk_therapist. So punk_therapist on Twitter. There you can find me. You can message me. Anybody's welcome. To find me and exchange ideas. Talk to me.
Well, that's certainly creative and unconventional Twitter handle.
There you go.
I always say that I like to be a trendsetter, Tom, and you certainly have beaten me to that punch, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me and trusting me to share your story with the public and for being here today. It's most appreciated.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure,